Across centuries and continents, 10 minds rose above the rest. Not with swords, but with pawns. Not with armies, but with ideas. They were kings without kingdoms, rulers of 64 squares. This is the story of brilliance forged in silence, of battles fought with thought, of champions who shaped the very soul of chess. The father of positional chess, WILHELM Steinitz, revolutionized the game by advocating strategic build-up over reckless attacks. His theories laid the foundation for modern chess. Before Steinitz, chess was a battlefield of reckless romance. He brought order to chaos. His greatest gift, the revelation that long-term strategy could triumph over short-term brilliance. He laid the foundation for modern chess, brick by brick, with logic as his mortar. In a historic duel held in 3 American cities, New York, St. Louis, and New Orleans, from January 11th to March 29, 1886, WILHELM Steinitz and Johannes Zukertort battled for the title of the first official world chess champion. The match was a race to 10 wins. Zukertort started strongly, leading 4-1, but Steinitz turned history around. He won 9 of the last 14 games, eventually triumphing by a score of 10-5, with 5 draws. Steinitz's victory marked the dawn of positional chess and the beginning of a new era. Zukertort, physically and mentally overwhelmed, never recovered from the defeat, passing away just 2 years later. A master of psychological warfare, LASKER adapted his play to unsettle opponents. His 27-year reign remains the longest in history, and his philosophical approach influenced generations. EMANUEL LASKER, born December 24, 1868, in Berlin, Germany, became world chess champion in 1894 after defeating WILHELM Steinitz in a match held in New York, Philadelphia, and Montreal. The match was a race to 10 wins, and LASKER triumphed with a score of 10-5, with 4 draws. LASKER's style was famously elusive and deeply psychological. He often chose moves not for their objective strength, but to unsettle his opponents and provoke errors. He was a master of practical play, willing to enter inferior positions if it meant confusing his rival. His adaptability was legendary. He could defend tenaciously, attack with precision, and shift between tactical and strategic modes with ease. Unlike Steinitz, who codified positional principles, LASKER embodied intuition and psychological insight. He didn't follow a rigid school of thought, he was the school. His reign lasted 27 years, the longest of any world champion, and his legacy remains a cornerstone of competitive chess. Capablanca, the Cuban genius, was renowned for his effortless clarity, flawless technique, and endgame mastery. His moves often seemed simple, yet they concealed deep strategic understanding. He avoided complications, preferring clean, logical play that flowed like poetry. Capablanca became world champion in his legendary match against EMANUEL LASKER in Havana, 1921. LASKER, known for his psychological warfare and gritty resilience, tried to stir complications, hoping to lure Capablanca into chaos. But Capablanca was unshakable. His pieces moved with the grace of a dancer and the precision of a surgeon. He didn't fight the storm, he dissolved it. Game after game, he steered the board into tranquil waters, where his endgame mastery reigned supreme. The match unfolded like a slow eclipse. Lasker, once the sun of the chess world, found his light dimming. After 14 games, 4 losses, 10 draws, no wins, he conceded. Not with bitterness, but with dignity. He acknowledged Capablanca's superiority, calling him a genius of the first rank. And so, in the heart of Havana, under the palms and the gaze of history, Capablanca ascended. Not with thunder, but with clarity, he became the 3rd world chess champion, ushering in a new age of elegance and logic. In the autumn of 1927, the city of Buenos Aires became the stage for one of the most dramatic shifts in chess history. José Raúl Capablanca, the reigning world champion, was the embodiment of elegance. His moves flowed like water, his endgames were poetry. He had held the title since 1921 without losing a single game in tournament play. Many believed he was unbeatable, but Alexander ALEKHINE had other ideas. He had cultivated a style of chess that was unlike anything the world had seen, ferocious, imaginative, and layered with tactical depth. The match against Capablanca was long, 34 games over 2 months. ALEKHINE had prepared obsessively, studying Capablanca's games with surgical precision. He avoided the Cuban's beloved endgames and instead dragged the champion into complex middle-game battles where ALEKHINE's combinations exploded like fireworks. When the dust settled, ALEKHINE had won 6 games, lost 3, and drawn 25. The crown was his. His style was a storm, waves of threats, sacrifices, and dazzling attacks. He infused life into dry positions and turned quiet openings into battlegrounds. His games were studied like symphonies, each move a note in a larger composition. In the aftermath of World War II, the chess world stood at a crossroads. The reigning champion, Alexander ALEKHINE, had died in 1946, still holding the title. For the first time in history, the crown was vacant. And into that void stepped a man who didn't just want to win it, he wanted to redesign the very system that governed it. Because MIKHAIL BOTVINNIK was not a romantic. He was a scientist. BOTVINNIK grew up in the Soviet Union, where chess was becoming a symbol of intellectual power. His notebooks were filled not with tactical tricks, but with deep positional studies and long-term strategic plans. He believed in preparation, discipline, and the power of logic over intuition. In 1948, FIDE organized a tournament to determine the new world champion. The contenders were titans: Paul Keres, Vasily Smyslov, Samuel Reshevsky, and former champion Max Euwe. But Botvinnik was the architect of his own destiny. He dominated the event, finishing 3 points ahead of the field. The crown was his. Yet, Botvinnik's true legacy began after the victory. He didn't just play chess, he built a system. He founded the Soviet School of Chess, mentoring future champions like Karpov, Kasparov, and Kramnik. His training methods were revolutionary: physical exercise, psychological conditioning, deep opening preparation, and rigorous self-analysis. In the gray corridors of post-war Soviet chess, where logic reigned and calculation was king, a young man from Riga arrived like a thunderclap. Mikhail Tal didn't just play chess, he performed it. His moves were not always the most accurate, but they were unforgettable. He was the illusionist, the provocateur, the poet of the board. Tal's combinations were like jazz improvisations, risky, fluid, and often beyond calculation. Tal proved that beauty could triumph over brute calculation. His games were studied not for their accuracy, but for their spirit. He made the queen sacrifice fashionable again, often throwing pieces into the fire just to keep the initiative burning. The World Championship match against Mikhail Botvinnik in Moscow, 1960, was a clash of philosophies. Botvinnik was the patriarch of Soviet chess, a scientist of the game. Tal was his antithesis: chaotic, intuitive, and fearless. In Moscow, under the gaze of the Soviet elite, Tal launched attack after attack, sacrificing material for initiative, spinning webs of threats that even Botvinnik couldn't untangle. Tal, at just 23, he became the youngest world champion in history, a record that would stand until Kasparov's rise in 1985. Bobby Fischer, the lone wolf from Brooklyn, had dazzled from a young age, sweeping the United States championships and then the world chess elite. But he still lacked the world title that had been held by the Soviet Union for decades. Fate brought him face to face with the experienced Boris Spassky. In the summer of 1972, the world watched as two men sat across from each other in Reykjavik, Iceland. Fischer finally achieved the feat and became the first American-born world champion in one of the most controversial matches in history. Bobby Fischer didn't play chess, he attacked it. His style was a fusion of surgical precision and volcanic intensity. His tactical vision was breathtaking, his endgame technique cold and clinical. But what truly set him apart was his will to win, unyielding, uncompromising, and often unnerving. Fischer's influence was seismic. He broke the Soviet monopoly on chess, turning a quiet, intellectual pursuit into a Cold War spectacle. His 1972 victory over Boris Spassky wasn't just a triumph, it was a cultural earthquake. He inspired millions, elevated chess to mainstream fame, and proved that one mind, fiercely focused, could shake an empire. Even today, his games are studied not just for their brilliance, but for their conviction. Fischer didn't just change how chess was played, he changed what it meant to be a champion. The chess world held its breath in 1975. The reigning champion, Bobby Fischer, had not played a single competitive game since his legendary triumph in Reykjavik 3 years earlier. Now, he was refusing to defend his title, demanding match conditions so rigid that the International Chess Federation could not agree. And so, by default, the crown passed to the challenger, a 24-year-old Soviet grandmaster named ANATOLY KARPOV. Karpov became the 12th world chess champion, not through battle but through preparation. And once crowned, he ruled with an iron grip. His style was unlike anything the chess world had seen. Karpov didn't attack, he suffocated. He played like a boa constrictor, slowly tightening his grip until his opponents were left with only bad choices. He didn't need fireworks. He needed patience, precision, and positional mastery. His influence was profound. Karpov redefined positional chess for a generation. He showed that elegance could be lethal, that restraint could dominate. His games became textbooks for endgame technique and strategic planning. Even Garry Kasparov, his fiercest rival, admitted that Karpov's control and consistency were unmatched. Karpov defended his title in epic matches against Korchnoi in 1978 and 1980, and then entered a legendary rivalry with Kasparov that spanned 5 world championship matches and 144 games. Though he eventually lost the title in 1985, Karpov remained a towering figure, winning over 160 tournaments and reclaiming the FIDE World Championship 3 times in the 1990s. On the same day Garry Kasparov was born in Baku, a minor earthquake shook the region. It was a well-aimed omen. That child would later revolutionize the world of chess. Kasparov grew up under the tutelage of BOTVINNIK, the legendary Russian champion, patriarch of Soviet chess. In 1984, Kasparov had burned in the candidates tournament, defeating titans like Korchnoi and Smyslov. He earned the right to challenge Anatoly Karpov, the reigning champion and embodiment of Soviet positional orthodoxy. Their first match became the longest in chess history, 48 games over 5 months. Karpov led early, but Kasparov clawed back. Just as momentum shifted, FIDE president Florencio Campomanes controversially halted the match, citing health concerns. Many suspected political interference. The rematch in 1985 was electric, and he defeated Karpov 13-11, becoming the youngest world chess champion in history. His reign lasted 15 years. He defended his title against Karpov 3 more times, then against Nigel Short and Viswanathan Anand. In 1993, he broke from FIDE to form the Professional Chess Association, challenging the system itself. In 1997, he faced IBM's Deep Blue and lost. It was a symbolic moment, man versus machine and the dawn of a new era. Kasparov wasn't just a player. He was a force, a storm, a disruptor. And his legacy still echoes in every sharp Sicilian, every bold sacrifice, every young prodigy who dares to challenge the old order. Magnus Carlsen, the Norwegian-born prodigy, is considered by many to be the greatest player in the history of chess. His rise was as dizzying as it was silent, as if talent didn't need noise to be noticed. And by the age of 18, he had already broken every record known up to that point. In 2013, at just 22 years old, he challenged the champion Vishy Anand in Chennai, India. He didn't beat him with brilliant tactics, but with constant pressure, surgical precision, and a disarming calm, becoming the modern world champion. His style is universal, adaptable, intuitive, and psychologically sharp. He is a mixture of Capablanca and Karpov, but with an unwavering freshness. While others were lost in theoretical labyrinths, Magnus sails invisible paths. He plays equal positions as if they were blank canvases, and in endgames where many see draws, he sees opportunities, achieving victories with subtle pressure and impeccable technique. He avoids predictable lines, forcing opponents into unfamiliar territory where his intuition shines. Carlsen held the classical title for a decade, defending 3 times against Sergei Karyakin, Fabiano Caruana, and Ion Nepomniachtchi, whom he defeated with amazing ease, while also dominating rapid and blitz formats. And then, in 2023, he walked away from the classical title, not out of defeat but disinterest. He had nothing left to prove. His reign had lasted a decade, and his legacy was already etched in the game's DNA. For generations, the World Chess Championship has been more than a title. It has been a reflection of human intellect, creativity, and resilience. Each champion, from classical pioneers to modern strategists, brought a distinctive philosophy to the board, shaping not only the way chess is played, but also the way it is understood. Rather than declaring a single greatest, it is more appropriate to recognize that each champion was the finest expression of their era. Together, they form a lineage of brilliance, each a chapter in the evolutionary history of chess. I'm James Byron, guardian of the greatest chess game ever played. Thank you for your attention, and until the next chapter, may your moves be bold and your victories eternal.